Hello friends, in today's video I am going to be showing you how to make these cute little watermelon fruit balls. They are a really good market make. I am going to be putting keychains on mine so that I can sell them at my next market, which is coming up in March. They're pretty simple. All you'll need for this is to know how to do a magic ring, single crochets, slip stitches, and how to work into the back loop only of stitches, and simple increasing and decreasing that you will have seen in other amigurumis that you've made. If video tutorials aren't really your thing, I do have a PDF version of this available in my shop, so head to the description down below. That one also includes a whole bunch of different fruits that you can make from the same pattern. For example, all of these guys and more. So go and check that out if you want some modifications for this pattern, or if you just prefer written patterns to video patterns. But other than that, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and to give this video a like, and I will see you soon in the tutorial. Also, I'm sorry, I got a microphone and it was a little bit broken, so the audio isn't 100% in the tutorial, but the instructions for each round will also come up on the screen, so bear with it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely could be better, and I have returned the dodgy microphone, so enjoy the tutorial. Okay, so for this I am using Patty's Plush. Of course, I am using the colors Toad, which is this dark green, and Rosella, which is this red. You'll also need a little bit of white, so I have the Patty's Plush Cockatoo caked up here. You really don't need too much of this. Also some black. This is our Patty's Plush Magpie. This one you just really need for a little bit of embroidery of the seeds. And also I have our lorikeet color as well, which is just to do a little bit of highlighting on the skin if you so wish. So that one is optional. All right, the other things you'll need are a hook. I have a 5.5mm Knit Pro Waves hook here. And I also have a tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. You'll also need a little bit of polyfill stuffing, but not too much. Okay, so we are going to start with our melon color. So I'm going to start with this red. And the first thing we're going to do is to make a magic ring. I'll do it slower for you so that you can see it. So I wrap my yarn, I use 2 fingers, I wrap my yarn around them and make a cross on this side. And then 2 parallel lines on the back side of my hand. And then I will put my hook under the first one and pick up the second. And then this is where it gets hard. I've pulled it all the way under, and then I'm going to twist my hook. And that's pretty much it. Then I'm going to, so I've twisted my hook, I've just picked up my yarn again in a little bit of a nicer way for me, and then I'm going to just chain to kind of hold it all together there. Do the magic ring however you like, but that's just a little insight into how I do it. And then when I work with plush yarn, I tend to put my hook through and then pull my magic ring tight kind of immediately, and then just work into that kind of small space that my hook is in. So we're going to do 8 single crochets into this magic ring. So that's completing my first one. I'm going to do 7 more for 8 in total in the magic ring. So that's my magic ring of 8 done now. I'll pull that yarn tail tight to kind of close up the circle now. And now I'm going to do increases all the way around. So we're going to do 8 increases all the way around here, and that will leave us with 16 stitches at the end of round 2. So round 2, we're going to find your first stitch, insert your hook into that, and then do 2 single crochets in the same stitch and continue doing that all the way around until you have 16. You may want to use a stitch marker to help you out with this. Because it's a smaller pattern, I'm not using it, but I often will. when I'm making amigurumi. I always do when I'm pattern testing, just so that I can make sure all the stitch counts line up. But sometimes for something smaller, I won't bother using a stitch marker. But if you are newer to amigurumi, please feel free to pop a stitch marker in so that it can help you keep track a little more easily of the start of your rounds. Alright, so that's the end of round 2. I've got 16 stitches now as part of my little melon. And we're going to do one more round in the melon color, and that is going to be alternating a single crochet with an increase all the way around. So we're going to do that 8 times in total, and we will end up with 24 stitches in our round at the end of that. So we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the stitch after, so we're making an increase. Single crochet in the next stitch, 2 single crochets in the one after as an increase. And we're going to do that all the way around until we have 24 stitches in total. Alright, this is why I normally cake my yarn so that the ball doesn't keep making its way towards me as I work with it. But we should have 24 now, so just give it a quick count if you like. I successfully have counted 24. So at this point you can cut off your red or your melon color. You might be using a pink like I did with my first one. And now you are going to pick up your white yarn. And the next bit we're going to do is to make this little white little piece of the inside of the skin. For me, I like to attach my second color just like a little bit further away than where I cut off my last color, and doing this will make the color change a bit less obvious. If you prefer, you can just start working with white in the last stitch of your red, but for this I prefer doing it this way. So I'm going to attach my yarn just a few stitches back. This is 4 stitches back in case you want to do exactly what I'm doing, which you don't have to. You can kind of pick anywhere around the circle that you like. And then I'm going to put my white yarn over my hook, pull it through, and then I'm just going to yarn over and pull through to attach it to my work. And then what I'm going to do all the way around is just make slip stitches. So I'm going to put my hook under the next stitch, pick up my white yarn and pull it all the way through. And with these slip stitches, you want to make them quite loose. You don't want to do really tight slip stitches because we do need to work into them in the next round. And if you do them too tight, they'll just be really hard to work into, and no one wants that. So do them nice and loose as you're doing these slip stitches all the way around your work. I tend to go a little bit slower when I'm doing them loosely, just so that I can remind myself to do it loosely, because normally when I make amigurumi, I am holding my yarn so tight to ensure there's no holes in it. So this is not standard practice for me, doing looser stitches. So just keep working that all the way around. And we've met back at the end. Now you should have 24 stitches that you can work into. So that first kind of attachment doesn't count as a stitch where we first attach the yarn. I'm not sure how well it will show up on the camera, but you can sort of see that this stitch here actually is coming into my work, and it's not really one we can work into. This stitch here is the first one we can work into. Let me point not with my finger because my finger covers it. So this stitch here is actually the first stitch. And this here is just where we attached our yarn. So I'm just going to go and make sure that I still have 24 workable stitches, and if not, I'll make a new slip stitch into that stitch that we attached our white into. So if you want to do the same, feel free. All right, so I did only have 23, so I'm just going to make one final little slip stitch here. And now we have 24 workable stitches, and I'm going to finish off my white yarn here. Pull that through, and now we are going to move on to the melon skin color. So I'm going to grab my green. All right, so now we're going to attach our green yarn into the back loop only of some of this white, of one of these white stitches. So I'm going to grab just the back loop of this one, put my hook through, grab my green yarn, pull that through. I'm going to do a little chain just to secure it, and then working into this same stitch, which I didn't do on the white color, but we'll fix it up for this one. I'm going to do my first single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet in the back loops all the way around. Now, you may realize we didn't actually connect our white stitches here, but they'll get connected as we do this green one. And again, doing it this way just helps with not creating a really big divot in color, which you'll sometimes see kind of a bit of a jagged edge when you do color changes in Amigurumi sometimes. So whenever I'm working just kind of a circular shape like this, as opposed to one where I need to be adding increases and decreases, I will tend to attach my yarn somewhere else so that I can cover it up a little bit and the color change isn't so obvious. So continue single crochets all the way around in the back loop only. As I'm doing this, I'm just crocheting over that white tail, well, both white tails, but you can secure your tails however you like. That is just what I prefer to do. Alright, so that's our first round of the green done. And now we're going to do 2 more rounds of just single crochet all the way around. So at this point we should still be working 24 single crochets per round. And we're going to do that for 2 more rounds. So you'll be making 48 stitches in total if that's how you prefer to count. That's 1 round finished. We're going to do the second round now of 24. And 24 there. So this is what we're looking like so far. It kind of looks like a bit of a sushi roll with very generous filling. But we'll make it look more like a watermelon soon, don't worry. Now we are going to start working on our decreases. There is going to be 2 rounds of decreases here. And get that stuffing ready, because after this next round we are going to stuff this little guy into a melon shape. So next round we are going to be doing a single crochet and then a decrease. So single crochet in the next stitch, and then for me when I decrease I always use the invisible decrease when I'm making amigurumi. So I will grab just the front loop only of my next 2 stitches, and then I will pull my yarn through both of them and then finish off my stitch. So So that's one invisible decrease there. So continue that all the way around, working one single crochet and then one invisible decrease until you get to the end of your round, and you will have 16 stitches at the end of this round. So in total, that will be 8 times the single crochet decrease repetition. Okay, so for me, that is the end of that round. I am going to grab some polyfill and I will be back in a second so that we can stuff this guy and finish him off. I am back with my polyfill, so let's get stuffing, hey? I tend to just kind of pull a big loop out and get my hook out of the way while I stuff. It shouldn't take too much stuffing really, because it's not a very big little toy, you know? I also like not to overstuff it too much so that this top bit doesn't stick out too much and it stays a little bit flat like this. There's just a little bit of rounding in that rather than a full-on ball of rounding, you know? So I think that's enough stuffing for me. Stuff it to your heart's content, however you like your amigurumis to look. And then let's get on with the final round of this pattern, which is going to be to decrease all the way around. So that will be 8 decreases in total. So again, for these, I will be using my invisible decrease, using the front loops only. You can do whichever you prefer. We're going to do 8 of them all the way around. Alright, so that is my 8. I'm going to pull off a long tail and then give it a snip. And then using my darning needle or my tapestry needle, I am going to close up this hole here. So to do that, I'm going to go, what I tend to do is go from the inside to the outside in the front loop only of every stitch around and kind of pull it tight every time as I go. So again, whichever closing method floats your boat is totally fine. This is just how I do it. And the great thing about this yarn is that even though it's chenille, it does not shed while you're doing this, so I won't have little fluffies all over me, which is the best. Alright, so I've pulled that quite tight, and now I'm just going to weave this end in and through the toy a little bit. Snip off my end and pop the rest of the tail through. I know some people will hate that I'm doing this with scissors, but to each their own. I kind of change it up. Sometimes I get my needle and I just pull it through by, you know, rotating it in there. But all right, so it's not quite looking like a watermelon yet because we need to add some seeds to it. So that is what your little bit of black yarn is for. I'm just going to cut off a pretty small length of it, put it onto my tapestry needle, and what I tend to do is just go into the side of my amigurumi and pull it up at the top. And honestly, I would just add, like, for these, I was just going across a single stitch, so either vertically or horizontally, it doesn't really matter, whichever way you think looks the best. And I was kind of doing them at random. And just put in 4 or 5 seeds, whatever you think looks good. You might want them to be quite symmetrical. You might like them a little bit more random like I do. Just as many as you think gives it that watermelon vibe. I think that's enough for me, so I'm going to pull it back out where my original yarn tail was. And then I'll just tie a little knot in these if I can. And once again, just push that back into your plushie. And there you have it. These seeds are a little bit wonkier, but that is it. So for this one here, I like the kind of look of the watermelon skin. You know how it always has those like little bits of striped or whatever. So if you want to do that, you can add those as well. I might do it just so that you can see what it looks like. So for that, I will grab my lorikeet ball or the lighter green, cut a bit longer length than we did for the black, and essentially the same thing, work with the vibes, and just for these ones I was going through kind of probably over about 3, and I was alternating which rows they were between. Going over 2 or 3 stitches. You could also probably do them horizontally. Well, I guess that's vertically if you wanted. It's really up to you. And you don't need to do these either if you like the look of your watermelon without them. That's totally fine. This is a choose your own adventure watermelon plush toy. Was a bit longer than I needed, but that's all right. I'll cut those off, tie them in a knot, and I can show you the other way I do it. I use the butt of my needle to push the actual knot through, and then I use the rest of it to just pull those ends all the way in. There you go. Pull out your little fluffy bits if you've got them, and voila, another little watermelon done. Another thing you can do with these, if you like and have the notions for it, is you can add little bag tags to them, you can add key rings to them. For these ones in particular, I'm going to make a few of them and put them on key rings and take them to my market to sell there as key rings or bag tags. So they're just a nice small little thing. You can use them as stress balls, you can use them as juggling balls, whatever you like. Instead of filling them with polyfill, you can put them in like sand in a pouch or rice in a pouch or some pantyhose and use them as like hacky sacks or juggling balls. They are the perfect size for all of those things. So I hope you enjoyed this, and let's wrap up with my face. So see you in a sec. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thank you for making some little melons with me. If you made them along with me, please feel free to tag me on social media if you post them there. I am at HeyIt'sMelB on pretty much every social media platform except for TikTok, where I am at Hey_It's_Mel_B. And if the real at HeyIt'sMelB from TikTok is watching this, please can I have that handle? It would be really helpful. Other than that little plea, I'm really glad you were here and watching this tutorial and hanging out with me today. I will see you soon for more crochet crafty content. I do have a market coming up this month, as I mentioned, so I'm sure there'll be some videos coming up on that in the next couple of weeks. But otherwise, just a reminder again to like and subscribe if you are so inclined. It really helps me and it helps the channel and it helps us find more crafty friends to hang out with here. So Thank you again for hanging out, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!